Hello everyone and welcome back to the Smogon YouTube channel. My name is Gold Mason, joined once again by my good buddy Finchinator.
Hey, how we doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. We're here to commentate on the SM game between Drachenkeule, also known as Drake, versus Tace. From the Congregation of the Classiest, Drake is on the Stark Sharks, representing the Garchomp. So who better to commentate than Finchinator, am I right?
Yeah, unfortunately, we will not be seeing the aforementioned Garchomp in this game, but we are seeing a couple of Charizards, which is Pokemon's, of course, favorite fake dragon. In this game, actually, we might be seeing two Charizard X becoming a real dragon as well. In Tace's side, it's going to be more in the form of a hyper-offensive team, and for Drake's side, it's more of a balanced team, actually kind of a new age balance. So let's start with Drake real quickly. We're highlighting a bit of a new age core, kind of a renaissance, if you will, in in Sun and Moon, in that Cresselia has become one of the better utility Pokemon. I mean, not only is it really great at checking, fighting types, of course, just naturally, and having that ground immunity into certain other physical attackers, but also it has a ton of tools. Thunder Wave, it could, of course, run Lunar Dance to give a second life to something. On occasion, we'll see like Calm Mind with a Z move, or a Trick with a Choice Scarf. Ice Beam, potentially to hit ground types or freeze things, and even Rocky Helmet that chips things down. And into offensive teams like this, you'll see, right off the bat, it should do very well into Landorus. It can potentially Calm Mind up and sweep if it is that set. And Thunder Wave plus Ice Beam is just threatening to anything. And looking at Tace's team, since it's almost certainly going to be a Mega Charizard, it even can, it's not scared of a Mega Gyarados, for example, because it's not going to be that. It's going to be Z move. It also, in terms of Drake's team, has a nice durable core. Seismitoad presumably is the Stealth Rocker. Clefable with utility. Skarmory, Spikes, could potentially Toxic. These Pokemon are all complemented nicely by Tornadus T, which can be a defogger. Nice fast pivot, check to Superior in this game. And then Charizard X is kind of the breaker, the enforcer on this team. If I had to guess, it would either be a Swords Dance or a Dragon Dance plus 2 attacks plus Roost set. The idea is, you have that longevity with Roost, so you can set up on a handful of bulkier Pokemon and not die immediately, but you have that ability to boost that attack and break through things. And it plays really nicely with, A, the hazard control from Tornadus T, and B, the potential to set the field on your own with hazards of your own with Seismitoad's Rocks and Skarmory Spikes. Meanwhile, with Tace's team, there's similar synergy in the sense that the Pokemon flow well with each other, but it's far more offensive. We're seeing a dual Dragon Dance core, presumably with Dragon Dance Charizard X and a Gyarados, which is probably going to be the Z user on this team. Given that it's a Gyarados with another Mega, it almost certainly is going to be Z. That does mean a few other things as well. The Landorus and the Magearna aren't going to be Z, so we could be seeing Resist Berries or a Pinch Berry. Keep in mind that they do recover 50% this generation, unlike other generations. In theory, it could also be just a Rocky Helmet Landorus as well. It's going to be the Stealth Rocker. Defog on Serp makes a ton of sense. And then it's almost certainly going to be a Lunar Dance Pivot Cresselia, not a Calm Minder. So yeah, so right off the bat, it's going to be a big test for Drake to see if he can handle the sequencing of the win conditions of Tace. And on the flip side, is Tace going to be able to apply the pressure, take the right risks, find the right openings? I do think that Magearna on Tace's team looks really strong, and both Charizards are poised to get it, if not multiple, at least one kill in this game. Skarmory is going to be really important for Drake as well against both the Gyarados and the Landorus T. It also may help with the Superior too. But let's go ahead and get into the game if that's all right.
Absolutely, let's hop right in.
So right from the jump, we're going to see a Tornadus lead. It is going to respect the possibility of like a Z move and just switch out rather than clicking knockoff. We didn't think it was Z because of Gyarados, but it's good not to risk it off the bat. Seismitoad getting rocks up is also really important with the Charizard and the Gyarados alive, but it's not going to impact those Pokemon yet. They aren't really early game Pokemon per se. But looking at this game, Drake makes a great play predicting the Defog Serp, gets Desard in, gets a Flare Blitz, but a really cool set from Tace. It's eject button on Cress. So we're going to ultimately see Lando come in to scare out Desard. Rocks are up on both sides. That favors Drake a lot though. Spikes are going to go up. Glare on the Skarm before Defog makes some sense. A Whirlwind there. unfortunately for Drake, doesn't catch the Zard or the Gyarados. It just catches the Crest, which I'd assume could just heal up if it wants to. Thunder Wave is pretty free as well, because you could always heal on the Seismitoad. And we're going to get that Moonlight there, as we expected. This could be an opening for a setup turn for Drake. He does up to heal instead. Thunder Wave is surely coming from the Crest, and that's going to kind of put us at a bit of an even spot. Definitely was a good start for Drake, but that tempo is slowed down. Landorus comes in here now. Big damage on Landorus would be huge, but Swords Dance is the play. That makes a lot of sense if he expected the Crest to stay, but I think Crest was fearing that. And then we see a great double switch from Tace, predicting the Skarmory. Predicting just any switch, really. I assume Defog's going to come out here. And it does. And right off the bat, that negates pretty much all the progress Drake made. And we see Drake's, paralyzed Charizard. And it doesn't even... Oh, man. So, yeah, right off the bat, Tace kind of flipped the script entirely there. Landorus is going to get rocks up. And what's really important, if you could just stop for 1 second, Mason, is that at this point now, we saw a field where rocks are up on both sides. That favors Drake a ton. I know you're thinking, oh, rocks are up on both sides, it's even. No, because if you look, Chase's team has a Zard that's still 4 times weak, Gyarados that's not Mega, so it's going to be 2 times weak, and Serp is the Defogger. It's not a very, Pokemon that's going to be long for this game. It doesn't match up well into Zard, Torn, or Skarmory. Potential for Thunder Wave on Crest if you outro Defog, and it might not be recovery on this particular team. It's definitely not Leech Seed. And if it's got Fence, it's really not gonna, every time it clicks that, Charizard comes in. So the fact that he was able to flip the field and get rocks up again before we found an opening for the Seismitoad, and moreover, if you go deeper into it, the fact that Tace on turn 2 or 3 got a 75% Flare Cannon off on that Seismitoad, putting it in range for Landorus Earthquake or Gyarados Charizard Dragonclaw was huge, and that's now paying dividends here. That double switch to Serp before was huge, and now that rocks are also up on Drake's side, I think that this goes from maybe a game that favored Drake to a game that really Tace is in the driver's seat. So we could keep going now. They're kind of getting to a bit of the ebbs and flows of the game. Defog there is great from Torn, to get level the field, but that gives Magearna, which just got a ton of damage on Seismitoad, another opening, and perhaps predicting the taunt, or perhaps just wanting to get a Flare Cannon off, knowing Skarmory is the only resist, which is not great. He gets that off, and then a double switch to Serp, which surprised me a little bit. It might have been trying to catch a U-turn and been Rocky Helmet. It could have been that, but I'm not too sure. Taunt there on the Zard feels like it's a bit for naught, and then a great switch there to get the Regenerator. However, that's going to be it's going to be kind of negated, yeah. And now Magearna comes in again. If you want to stop here really quickly after this Seismitoad, you could after this turn, yeah. So here's a play that I think, and you could stop here, would be a little questionable from Drake, in that he gets rocks up, which is nice, but the Serp is still fairly healthy, and the Magearna has now gotten a kill there, and there's no really recourse for Magearna every time it comes in now. And you don't have rocks to stop the Zard or the Gyarados. So, in my opinion there, it felt obvious to me that Tace was going to try and get that kill, and was willing to go to -2 special attack. You have a Cresselia on your side. There's no way he's going to click Calm Mind. I feel like going to Crest and then potentially trying to double out to Torn or to Zard, or even to Clefable if it's Calm Mind, could have potentially been like a good pivoting point. And instead, you let go of your rocker, knowing full well that Serp can defog on everything besides the Tornadus T. And I just felt like a bit of a turning point there. Like, Drake saw how important rocks were early in the game. It prevented multiple Pokemon from switching in. And later in the game, he maybe got a little more aggressive in the wrong priority area, if you will. And anyway, Tace staying in on the ground type with Magearna, knowing fully well that the most Seismitoad could do would be 55-60% with Earthquake, and even then, knowing rocks were more likely was a great play there. And while rocks are up right now, and it looks threatening right now, I do think so long as Tace can find a superior opening, it looks pretty good. So we can keep going in the game and see if maybe Drake can try and pressure around that or not, but I think it's definitely uphill for him now.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see if Tace is able to make it back here. Get that Serp in.
Yeah, so it's all about finding an opening there. That Flare Blitz does a ton of damage there, and we're seeing it's not helmet. Okay, so it's gonna boom. Boom was kind of smart because if he goes Torn on the boom, it dies and then Surf can defog on anything. And at that point, Magearna kind of wins from this point. He does just Flare Cannon here, not wanting to run into like a Calm Mind on the wrong turn. Like, now he can kind of, So now he can get Serp in on a forced heal. Oh, on a Crest double. Okay. That works all the same. I assume you defog here. And now the field is clear. I thought that was a really nice sequence from Tace. Rather than going to it and risking Torn, you go Magearna, which covers both Clef and Torn. And at this point now, with Flare Cannon's only resist again being Skarmory and both the Zard and the Seismitoad down, it looks pretty tough for the Drake side. That is a nice dodge there, but so Crest on Crest action is kind of like the Gliscor and Gliscor action where they both poison you. No progress comes of it, so both double out. And the Zard gets the better end of the Skarmory. And at this point, to me, it feels like this is kind of be like a trade. Flare Blitz should go just short of Twit-KOing the Crest, but you can not really take much damage in Dragon Dance or Swords Dance up. It is Dragon Dance. And Thunder Wave is great, but unless you get a Para here and then you can stall it out like with recoil plus potential chip, then you're not going to end up well off. And Future Sight, like you basically need 3 straight full paras here if you're Drake to win this 1v1. I assume Flare Blitz here is a roll. He gets the roll. Given the initial damage, it might have been a higher roll needed, but even then, you'd need another full para later. And while Future Sight is looming, the Zard can just be foddered off. It's done all it needs to do. Magearna should beat Skarmory. Magearna should beat Clef and Torn. At this point, we're definitely approaching, the end game. A way to win for Drake would be either if this is like not Thunderbolt, which would do really well in the Skarmory, of course, or if you were able to get Confusion with the Tornadus Therion's Hurricane. So basically, the one shot here would be, I'm not sure why he went Clef first. That I'm not sure, but the one shot here is just going to be you got to go Torn, click Hurricane, and pray you confuse this. But then you need to confuse the Crest just once, and then I believe it's in range of 2KO. And then you've got a really good chance because you beat Serp, of course. But he does get the first one. However, he's going to need a lot more heavy lifting there, especially because it's Wiki Berry, and it looks like Magearna is going to snap out of that. And Thunderbolt should be able to take this out, giving a pretty clear-cut 4-0 victory for Tace. Overall, I did feel like Drake's team was a little soft into Flare Cannon plus Thunderbolt from the Magearna because he didn't have his Steel type was Skarmory, and his Ground type was lacking recovery. So that was a soft spot there, and that kind of forced Drake's hand into Hazard game and gave Tace a pretty permanent upper hand, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was an exciting game. I quite liked it actually. I'm not used to Pokemon like Charizard X staying in on the Thunder Waves and whatnot. So. That was kind of interesting.
With Lunar Dance in the back, it's actually a little more justifiable because you could get one kill and then get Lunar Danced up later and then potentially sweep. So you kind of like use 2 Charizard in a sense. That's just the current state of SM with all the strong Pokemon like Magearna, Charizard, even like Excadrill and Sand, for example. So there's a lot of like double dipping, if you will.
Yeah. The Magearna plus Landorus plus like the Superior to come in and get the defog off every time was pretty strong combo. I really like that. And
definitely, we saw the synergy work off nicely there.
Yeah, absolutely, and a nice win for Team Midwest. So, good job to the classiest, and we will be. I'm looking forward to the battles from both of these battlers in the weeks going forward. I think that this wasn't the best showing from Drake, but I think that he's had some solid games in the weeks prior. So
Yeah, and he also is just coming off a strong showing in Smogon Masters, and while Tace has been up and down for a number of years, it feels like when he's in Sun and Moon, he's really clicking all cylinders. And finally, we figured out, we're not going to bother with him in current gen. We're going to just put him in the tier he thrives at. So I think both these guys, picks to click in future weeks. I'm sure we'll be seeing them, if not on the channel, and certainly on the stream in days and weeks to come. So very excited for the remainder of their campaigns, and just appreciate that we had the chance to cover them both this time around.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Finch, for joining me.
Of course.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. We will see you next time on another SPL commentated set. Catch you later.
Later.